Welcome to
the Padilla family homestead.
I'm Junior Eugenio, also known as Sir Bubbles.
And I am Jennifer, the Jen in Tea Time with Jen.
Beautiful wife.
And we are welcoming you back for season 2, episode 7. This is airing the middle of December, so Merry Christmas time.
Merry Christmas. Merry early Christmas.
Right. He has his fun grunt Santa shooting presents.
Oh yeah.
And we are here for a super I was gonna say a fun topic, but it's more of a serious topic. It's kind of part 2 to last week. So last week was letting go, and in letting go we talked a whole lot about healing, but this week is healing with intention. And so we have our tea, so grab your tea, cup of coffee. This is podcast style. We'll tell you what we're drinking. I'd love to hear your favorite teas in the comments, and get cozy and let's have a discussion about healing.
Yes.
What are you drinking today, honey?
Unfortunately, it's not bourbon tea, but it is spiced tea.
Spiced chai.
Spiced chai.
Yeah.
Which is really nice because I like the herby spiciness.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Christmas.
It does. All the fall Christmas flavors in it. I have lemon ginger with probiotics. It's the Bigelow tea. I really like this one with some honey.
Yes.
Okay. It's still really hot. So we're going to jump in. Like I said, last week, the video was with my daughter, and we were talking about letting go. And in letting go, a lot of the things that we've had to let go, or she had to learn how to let go, was also a huge part of healing. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like there's 3 major categories to healing. You have physical healing, mm-hmm. mental healing, and spiritual healing. And so we really talked a whole lot about mental
I feel like
healing
you
and
guys
some spiritual.
Covered a lot of that stuff.
There's a few other areas that we're going to touch on with that, but we're not going to really touch on loss because I think we dove so much into it last week. There's a lot of other areas to heal besides just loss, and I don't want a super long video. I want this to be something that you can digest easy. Yeah. And so we're going to jump into some other areas.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that stuck to my head about healing is doing life healing, like health-wise. Mm-hmm. What can we do to heal, makes ourselves be better, and also future health. Mm-hmm. What are we working towards to get even healthier for healing, making us feel better?
Yes. I think we'll wrap out with physical healing. Yeah. Because that's a huge journey that the two of us have really been on. And Emily, actually. And then, so let's see, mental healing, we have loss, which was last week. I'm going to tag that particular one in the description below, and then also just the whole playlist for you. If you've missed any of season 1 or season 2, you can check that out.
But mental, I think, can coexist with like dealing with depression and stuff like that.
Depression, past relationships. Yep. So which one do you want to start with?
I feel like what I want to start with is depression, because that's one of my biggest things that I had, especially in the beginning when I met you. Mm-hmm. Depression can be exhausting. Mm-hmm. Depression can mess with emotions a lot.
Right.
So for me, getting to how would I put it, be better with God, having a sense of belonging. Also, what I was listening in the radio had a lot of spiritual stuff in my mentality. I feel like what we watch on TV also. I used to be able to watch a lot of like horror movies and action-packed stuff to where there's blood and gore and stuff like that.
Now your one gory movie is John Wick.
With John Wick. And that's the only reason, because it's Keanu Reeves, alright? Yeah, Keanu Reeves.
So, depression, there's a lot that is the mental side, but there's also going to be a lot in this that's the spiritual side.
Right.
And people are going to have different reasons why they're depressed. Sometimes it's spiritual reasons, sometimes it's physical reasons, but sometimes it's just taking control of your mind and shifting your perspective, which is your mindset, which is your mind health, right?
I think the other thing that helped me is having a why. Not having a why can be very...
We had a few things. So it was hope, a reason for doing things.
Yeah.
And then one of the big things we really worked on was speaking truth over it.
Yes.
Like, you were your own, we all are our own worst critic. But you really were your worst critic, whether it came to how you felt about yourself physically or what you brought into a relationship, all different kinds of things.
Because to me, I felt like, I help provide, sustain a roof over our heads and stuff like that, but it just didn't feel enough. I felt like whatever I did was not enough. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if I did a lot. It wasn't enough. And I think that was because I was not at peace with myself, and I wasn't. And I'm not gonna say I'm 100% there still. My depression has gotten better since the beginning. I still deal with depression just because of the day by day things.
I think that you're in chronic pain.
Yes.
From an injury, and so pain can lead to thoughts that can lead into depression, stress, high stress situations.
And it's not like suicidal thoughts or anything like that. It's just mainly thoughts of not being enough, not helping enough. So that's the main thing. Of course, the being in pain doesn't help, but one thing I've learned is that to deal with that type of situation, I've got to be part of the family, whether it's just being around and not being gloomy or anything like that, because that can drain other people, and you don't want to drain the whole house.
Right, but you also want to be able to not be fake happy.
Correct.
And it's a hard line to find, and there's some merit to fake it till you make it. Yeah. But then there's also getting down to the root cause of why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and so that's one of the things that took us quite a while to pick down one thing at a time, figure out what it was, and then speak truth over that.
I feel like the biggest key to that was having a safe place within the household. And the other thing was communication, being able to talk about it. And seeing if there's anything that can be adjusted, or if we can, make something happen, even if it's partially there, or if I need just time to,
So for you to be able to heal, having a place of refuge.
Yes.
And having your safe spot. And then also having the safe person to communicate with.
Yes.
About it. And that's something that I think was huge, was that you were able to ask me questions and come to me, and without judgment, I was able to come back and respond.
Yeah.
And help speak truth over it when you couldn't.
And in the beginning, it was hard because I didn't know if it was proper for me to talk to you about these kind of stuff because some of these things are guy things. But who else are you going to trust other than your trustworthy partner in crime or whatever in life? You know? So,
well, according to you,
the hard part is just
love is a crime.
No.
He's
hard
Mr. Jokester.
Yeah, the hard part is being a guy. Most of our parents or our dads instill that you don't want to bring the ugly to your spouse or the nitty gritty to your spouse because it's gonna deter them away, and it makes a guy feel like he's stuck unless he has friends that you can actually talk to.
Well, and I feel like there was a different stigma when we were growing up versus what there is right now.
Yeah.
Guys talking about depression and emotional things, and some just like some women are built not as emotional, some men are built more emotional, and
I happen to be emotional.
He happens to be a very sensitive soul, and so I think coming up from being the partner in this, right? Yeah. If you have somebody who's dealing with depression, finding ways to be helpful about it and not condemning. Yeah. And being able to be a safe place. Now, not enabling. There's a very big difference between giving space to allow them to process and think and speak truth over it, help guide them, help them see their value, right? But then if all they do is stay there, it's also encouraging them in a positive way that they are needed, that they need, like, help them give direction a little bit on just a little kick in the pants, but don't like knock them over. And because there's a very fine line there, because that line is going to be very different with me and him than it could be with me and you and your spouse. And so I think communication, and we've talked about this before, but we've talked about intentionally using your words. We've talked about mindset, just overall, right? And dealing, either if you're the one dealing with the depression or you are the one living with somebody dealing with depression, it's going to take really being intentional about the words, how you're approaching it, not taking things personal. And if you do, then come back and say, do you know what? I'm really taking this personal right now, so maybe we need to have this conversation a little bit later or figure out a different way to approach it. And that's something that was really big for us, is for you needed to step away from conversations, collect yourself, and then come back to the conversation when you were ready. And I needed to not be walked out on, so do you to tell me.
The other thing is announcing, hey, can we hold that there? I need to step away for a few minutes and just put my thoughts back together, and then can we come back and talk about this in like 5 minutes?
Because if somebody's already feeling vulnerable and they're already having negative thoughts about themselves, and if they're not in the right mindset to have the conversation, then all they're going to do is feel attacked and keep retreating. And that has been game changer when we approached it in those ways.
The other thing is also me with having my second language is English, so sometimes some things can come out a specific way and I can hear it a certain way when she also means a different thing. Or I can say something and it sounds really bad and she's like, did you mean it like you meant it?
Oh my gosh.
And I'm really glad she doesn't just absorbs it and hides it. And I'm so glad she says, hey, did you really mean it like this?
At first, it was what the heck are you talking about? And why would you say that to me? That hurts. And he's like, no, I don't mean it that way. And then I'm like, okay, hold on. What do you actually mean? And then now it's like, okay, I'm just not even going to get my feelings hurt. I'm just going to be like, what do you mean?
I don't want to blame language barriers, whatever, but it does have an effect sometimes.
There is the meaning of a word.
Yes.
And there's a lot of English words that mean a lot of different things.
And there's English words that can also be translated in my head to a lot of Spanish things. But it's not like I'm being translated all the time. It's just the way I was brought up, I guess.
It makes sense. So, with depression, though, now there were mental reasons and spiritual reasons why he was battling depression, but then there were also physical. You had low testosterone and extremely low vitamin D.
Right. And
both of which.
That also was due to poor nutrition of how I was eating. I was eating... It's not poor nutrition. It is poor nutrition. It's just that I was eating a lot of the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
And not enough of the right stuff.
It's poor nutrition.
Yes. I just wanted to
not feeling your body with what it needed.
Right.
And
it was like, you know, before I used to work a lot. I was a workaholic before I met you. I was on the road 16 to 18 hours a day. And I was working sometimes 6 to 7 days a week. And when you're on the road, all you can think about is, you know, junk food. Oh, there's junk food at every corner, so let's pick what we're picking today.
And what was the cheapest. And
exactly, what you can afford. It's not that it's the cheapest, what you can afford. And sometimes you have to live off the dollar menu, and that's not the healthiest thing for you.
No, we've been learning that a lot more over the last few years.
Yeah, so
for him, it was approaching and speaking truth over, I think, was the number one thing.
Yeah.
Balancing the vitamin D was huge. And then having patience and having that safe spot to be able to go, do you know what? Maybe a movie night's not what we need. Maybe we need to sit down, have a cup of tea, and just have a conversation and just talk about all the things, but in a safe way to where it's... Someone I watched once said, being offended is a choice. And he can say whatever he wants to say. I have a choice whether I'm going to be offended, and vice versa. And that really made me think about it. And I thought about it in tons of different contexts. And that really is true. And when you're approaching a relationship where I believe that he doesn't want to hurt my feelings, I believe he's not purposely going to do something in that way. So I'm going to choose not to take offense for right off the bat. I'm going to choose to go, I'm not understanding you. Let's have clear communication, right? And because of that, we were able to find the root causes. Yes. And because of that, now there's things that I get worried still, that there are things that still trigger. We've had a lot of big things happen this year. And there have been a lot of stressors and a lot of things going on. And there's been a few where he just needed to have some time to be emotional, and then he wrapped his head around it and he was fine. And that first day, you're like, oh, please don't let depression kick in. Please don't let depression kick in, coming from the spouse side.
Yeah.
But coming from his side, he's like, I don't want to have depression kick in. I just need to wrap my head around this, speak the truth, get in a new routine.
Yeah, it's just, I think it was more of a adjustment period. It was more of something big happened, and I just need to adjust myself to where I make it work with what's going on now.
And telling yourself that it's okay to have emotions, have them for a season, feel them, process through them,
but
and move forward.
also not drowning in the emotions. Have the emotions, but not dwell on the emotions to where they're eating you up.
And I think this comes down to a spiritual thing that we both have talked about since we've been together a lot. But it's when we're not focusing on the storm around us, mm-hmm. we're focusing on the peace.
Yeah.
And for us, that's Jesus. And so if we're not focusing on the storm, it is there. Yeah. We're feeling the effects of it. We are going through it. We are dealing with what it's handing us.
Yeah.
But we're not letting it take us off of our pedestal and take us emotionally off of our foundation of the core of who we are.
Yeah. Kind of like Peter. Jesus told him, "Come to me and focus on me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at the storm. Look at me and come to me."
And when he focused, he could walk.
He could walk, but once he lost track, he sunk.
Yeah.
So I think us having I'm not like having more of a godly life where God is with us and talking about God
mm-hmm.
helped us spiritually, and both of us agree that having God with us has helped us
mentally. By all the things.
Yeah, mentally.
It helps our mindset.
Yeah.
And because one of the things with depression is a lack of hope.
Yes.
And one of the things with our religion is hope.
Yes, hope.
And so there is something that crosses that bridge right there that stops the hopelessness. And no matter how bad the situation is, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So with that being said, do you have anything else to say on depression?
No.
Okay. So that's kind of how we approach dealing with healing with depression.
Yeah.
Again, I think that once you've really battled depression, either there's the fear you can go back there or fear that your spouse can go back there. I'm going to pause really fast, close the blinds because I'm glowing, and then we'll be right back. Okay, much better. I'm not glowing anymore.
I was like, oh,
I know, it was moving up. So, okay, so another area where mentally I had to heal was past relationships. And this can be one that is extremely hard to move through. And depression is too. Everything can be extremely hard to go through. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details. But before my husband and I were together, my daughter has a different dad. And relationships that are not based on the fundamentals that they need to be can take not great turns.
It's more of a toll on you.
Yes. And I think both of us had things from that relationship when it ended that we both needed to heal from. And so I can only speak on mine, and I am not going to dog my daughter's dad. So I'm going to be very careful how I word all these things. But there were a lot of things, just period, in having a failed relationship. I had an expectation of what I expected. I didn't do what I expected, which then resulted. So I never thought I'd have a kid without being married. I wanted to have that dream life of having a husband and a kid and a house and the white picket fence and all things, right? Red door, sure. So I wanted all those things, and I ended up not married, in a relationship that was not healthy, had a daughter, we still weren't married, things weren't going great, and right before her 4th birthday, we broke up. And then I was single mom for many years. And there's a lot of emotional baggage that you take on. There's shame. There's disappointment.
Yeah.
There is a lot of things. I mean, I had a hard time walking into church because I felt like I had a scarlet letter on my shoulder, and like, there's things about it that I put on myself that other people didn't put on me. I put on myself. And I had improved a lot over the years, but I was still very, very broken when Junior and I met.
Yeah.
And I felt very confident at work, but I did not feel confident in my home life. I did not feel confident as a mom. I didn't feel confident as a daughter. I didn't feel confident. Hadn't had a relationship since my ex and I broke up. And so I didn't feel confident in these realms, but I felt confident at work. So I was a workaholic. One, because I needed it. So it was 8 years, about 8 years. Until we got together, I think.
4 plus 8, yeah, around 12,
yeah.
12 years old.
So it was about 8 years of doing single mom, split custody, just doing my thing. I didn't date at all. And that was partially because my focus needed to be on my daughter at that time. And she didn't need more people in and out. But I also knew I was broken. And I was not anywhere near ready to try to balance another relationship and make it work with having a child as well. It wasn't going to bode well. And so I remember, there's nothing more lonely to me that I've experienced than that first week of split custody and separate households, and you don't get to put your daughter to bed every night, and you don't wake up to her, and you go to bed to an empty house, and you wake up to an empty house, and what you knew as your life being a mom was no longer what you got to do every day. You got to do it every other week or every couple of days, because we weren't week on, week off at that point. And so that time period was very hard, and I had a very big choice to make. I was either going to allow myself to be suffocated and pulled into this, or I was going to find a way to see the silver linings and to keep going, right? Well, I've always been a keep going kind of person. And I call it in Runaway Bride, there's that scene where Julia Roberts keeps running away from all these fiancés right at the altar. And it's because it wasn't that they didn't know who she was, but it's because she didn't know who she was. Yeah. So they couldn't know who she was without her knowing who she was. And she didn't know what kind of eggs she liked. So Richard Gere called her out on all this stuff, and she had to figure out what type of eggs she liked. And she figured it out. And I remember that moment because I feel like I had to do that with so many areas of my life. Who was I really? Who was the voice I'm hearing in my head? What are the things that I enjoyed doing? What are the things that made me tick and make me drive? Learning how I like my food. Yeah. What are the routines that I'm the best with? What avenues, what crafting, I figured out I could draw. I was always a crafter, but I had no clue I could draw, There's so many different avenues that I had to learn about who I was. Yeah. And heal here before I could step into figuring out who somebody else was and letting them get to know me. So I had done that really a lot. I early on, I worked on that. I kept working on it over the years. There was always something new. But there was a lot of things that were still broken when him and I got together. And one of the things was my image of myself. I was still I knew who I was, and I knew what I liked, and I knew my personality, and I was kind of that loud, bubbly, in your face. I'll wear zebra print and leopard print and whatever I want. I'm going to be who I want, Yeah. And I was confident in who I was, but but I wasn't confident in the value that I added into the world. And I didn't realize that, how much I wasn't confident in that until the two of us got together. And it was, 4 years? I want to say almost. That every single day he told me I was beautiful.
I still do it.
Now it's like routine in my head, and I'm sure there's been days when we're sick or whatever.
I feel
but
like
for the most part,
the first 4 years, like, to me, I felt like, how would I put you? I need to put it in a way people will understand. So you got a straight line, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way you looked at yourself was more of a question mark. It was
Correct.
Not a straight line.
Correct.
And I felt like you needed something to build you up. And one thing that I felt like you needed was to say that you're beautiful.
Right.
You're beautiful.
I had
beautiful,
things. I was overweight.
beautiful.
I had messed up teeth. I was not that, even though I knew the magazine person was fake, and I'd been teaching my daughter that, there's still something in it's like, well, you need to wear makeup if you're going to this event, or you need to do this, or you have to have the best clothes to be able to work in this environment, or whatever it is. And these were things that I really struggled with. And when somebody tells you that you're beautiful every single day for years, at some point you start believing them. And at some point you stop and you think, and we've had conversations. I'm like, why do you say that? Why do you think I'm so beautiful? Like, these are dentures, guys. My teeth were falling out. In my earlier videos, I had 9 teeth in my mouth. And I had so many health things. When we first got together, I wasn't missing all the teeth, but I had a bunch of health stuff that happened. And because of my lack of nutrition during those times, all of my dental work fell out. My teeth were breaking like crazy. Everything I did, everything was falling out. I had infection after infection. I did not find myself beautiful. And it was something to learn to see myself through his eyes, and vice versa. I think that was important for both of us to learn.
Yeah, I feel like when I kept telling you're beautiful, it's because I loved you from the heart, and I truly loved you. Not saying you didn't love me, but I'm saying I loved who you are, and I loved your soul, I loved your heart. Everything else was just a bonus.
Right. And I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree, and I think that's important. And I think that there's more value than your physical appearance. And I think that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I also think I think loving is a choice.
Yeah.
And I think that lust is an attraction is something that just happens, right? But choosing to love somebody, like really love somebody, and allow them to love you is one of the most healing things, because it brings up all the insecurities. It brings up all of the things that you're not comfortable with. Allowing somebody in to see all of the past mistakes, to see all of the messed up things, and to have them love you anyway.
I think the biggest key for all that is that before we even met, we were upfront with everything.
Because we met online.
Yeah, we met online. We talked about everything.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about all our baggage. We talked about where we were working out, how financially we were. I mean, she really didn't know how much financially I was, I think. But I was upfront with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Up to the day to where we even met, I told her, like, see that truck? That's my work truck. And yeah, it's run
Somebody
down.
offered him to...
It's run down, but, that's the only thing I have. And I remember to this day, my friends would be all like, oh, you're so dumb. I could have let you borrow my car. You could have looked better. I'm like, dude,
And well, if you would have shown up in a lowrider, I probably would have walked the other way.
It was not a lowrider, but as like, I don't want to give her a fake me. I want her to expect what she
right.
you know, the real me. I don't want to be the fake guy, because fake guys can go a certain way and then they get caught of all the lies they've been saying, and that ends up being bad.
Well, and I think it's important because so many people show a side to somebody on who they think that they want them to be, or who that they want to be in the future, and they're not showing who they are right now.
Yeah.
And you can have dreams, but if you can't be honest with yourself about who you are right now, how are you going to be honest with somebody else about who you are right now? And then dreaming about going to that next step, because you have to recognize the step you're on before you can take the next one, and in any kind of successful way. And so coming in, and number one, so past relationship, is recognizing areas where you screwed up. It's not always just the other person's fault. No. There's going to be something. Now, there are extreme circumstances, and if there is abuse and certain things in it, I do not think that there is any line, any time that anybody asks to be abused. So I want to be very clear on that right here. Whether it is mental, physical, whatever type of abuse, I don't think anybody ever asks for that or deserves it. And so I just want to be clear. But in a relationship, 99% of the time, when a relationship is going downhill, there are reasons why on both sides that has happened.
Yes. And
it takes a lot of work to make a relationship work. The two of us have to work daily on our relationship. We have a good relationship. I don't think we have a whole lot of issues. But there are things where we do have issues sometimes. And sometimes little things come up and we just deal with them before they become anything big. Yeah. But I had to recognize what I had done wrong, right? What areas that I had room for improvement, work on those. If he didn't know who I was, did I know who I was? Can I blame him for not knowing who I was if I didn't even know who I was? And then from there, figure out who I am and then move forward. And then when you allow yourself to love and to be loved, really being honest and truthful and seeing the value that you add into the world. Because all of us have something to add into the world. Just don't compare yourself to anybody else, because their value is different. Yeah. Their value is for a different spouse. Their value is for a different job, whatever it is. Some people are going to be inventors. Some people are going to be support systems. Some people are going to be the bakers or the gardeners. Some people are going to be the HVAC guys. Like, our brains all work differently. We have different talents. We have different things. And we add different value in. And there can be 20,000 gardeners, 2 million gardeners, 50 million gardeners. But you are gardening in a different way for you and what you have learned and what your experience is. And that's going to connect with somebody else, and you're going to add value in some way. Yeah. And so I think that it's important to make sure that you are looking at it with good light eyes and mindset for you to be able to heal in those ways. Because if you don't, that piece of you is going to continue driving a wedge, not just in your heart, but in every other relationship. And as you have, if you don't fix it and you don't heal it, and you have one relationship that has pain and hurt and things that aren't healed, then it causes another relationship to have pain and hurt. That's growing now. Yeah. And it's growing. It's becoming a bigger wedge. So the biggest advice I can give, you can't fix anybody else. Absolutely not. You cannot fix anybody else.
No.
Don't be with anybody because you want them to change, or you want the future them and not the them they are now. You need to love the you are now and see the value that you have now and work to be the person that you want to be in the future, but you need to love the person that you are with for who they are now and work together to be who you're going to be in the future. Yeah. And if those goals don't come true, sometimes things happen and it's okay, and you're going to shift but if you're expecting to be with somebody because of something that they're planning to be in the future, and then something changes in them and that never happens, it's a recipe for disaster.
Also know that it takes work. Like this didn't happen overnight. Me and her didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of work, and even then we can still grow and learn stuff from different areas and make ourselves succeed. Like me, talking about health, I could always adjust and try to. My goal in the future is being healthier that way, like healthier by not having as many illnesses, or being to a point to where I will be around for a long time, so we can spend our old age together and be that cute couple that's holding hands walking down the street, or at the beach or whatever.
We have these neighbors, and because we live in a complex, we have these neighbors, and there's this older couple who you see them they walk in the mornings and they walk at night, and they're holding hands and they're together, and she's wearing her little bling bling, and they're just the cutest couple. And I'm like, that's goals, man. That's what we want to be.
Yes.
So let's move into health. So healing health wise. We've talked before on different things, so we're not going to dive super deep into this. However, I was this regular stick kid as a kid, and then high school, got depressed, was a little bit heavier but not heavy, and then had my daughter, and I had postpartum depression. I guarantee you I did. I'm like 99.9%. I had postpartum for when she was born, and for probably a couple years afterwards. I got depressed when I was pregnant and after, and all the things. So knowing what I know now about that, I recognize how much that affected a lot of things. Gained weight during that time. I ended up having esophagus issues later on. I've always had bad teeth. I kind of inherited my dad's bad teeth. And so I already had bad teeth from a younger age. And then I got esophagitis. I was choking on everything. I choked. I ate a burrito and it got stuck. I would eat a piece of meat and it would get stuck. And I thought it was blocking my airway. It wasn't. It was in my esophagus. And so I ended up having to go on an all liquid diet. And I did not do that well. And then as a workaholic, as I was able to start adding in some solids, I was working all the time, but I was so afraid to choke. I was working in environments where I was the only person in charge, and if I choked, there'd be a massive issue. And so I would eat French fries and Mountain Dew. That is what I lived on. And it was not good, and my body just continued to go downhill. I am still dealing with issues today from what I put my body through 10 years ago. And it is off the hook, the stuff. So with that, when you don't get good nutrition for a period of time, your teeth start to show it is it 2 years later? Something like that. It's like it starts to show up in your teeth like 2 years later. It was right about the 2-year mark. My dental work all started falling out. And I started having a lot of issues. Then I had infections constantly. And then with not being able to chew because I didn't have teeth, it was one thing after another thing. I was not eating well. When I finally got my dentures in, I had the last of my 9 teeth pulled out in 2021. Yeah. 2021 in summer. I got the last 9 teeth pulled out and then got dentures. And I was finally starting to be able to eat. And oh my gosh, eating was amazing. I did choke a few times because I have to chew better. But I still deal with esophagitis, but it's not nearly what it used to be. And changing the food I'm eating has allowed me to, my body no longer has infections. I'm not fighting infections all the time. So guess what? I'm not getting sick all the time. Amazing. I was like sick, like I swear once a month. But I think I've like once a year I get something now.
Yeah.
And
but it was bad because you were like constantly taking
antibiotics. I lived on ibuprofen.
And because of the infection, you would get thrush and you would have to get more medicine.
So much. So my body has been really jacked up. My gut health is really bad. All the things. So in the process of learning about real food and doing all of these things, number one, my biggest tip for healing physically is don't ignore it. Now, I'm still healing. I'm still dealing with a leg thing that I've been working on. I am dealing with my blood pressure now. I had my gallbladder out in 2022. And so I'm dealing with the processing foods and things like that. There's just so much that is constantly, there's going to be something. But I don't ignore it anymore.
Right.
And I learn what I need to do and I do it. And if I mess up for a day, then I do it better the next day, right? And so if you take your health as important, and you look at how important things are. Teeth are important for your body. Because I don't have teeth, I now no longer have that benefit. But I'm very thankful for my dentures. Because these dentures allow me to eat meat and bread and crackers and vegetables, a raw carrot. I can chew a raw carrot. Like, there are so many things I couldn't do for so long that everything had less nutrition because it was cooked way beyond oblivion. And my body is learning how to process and deal with it now. So learning what real food is, and I say real food because natural, not processed, not chemically made, ramen noodles are not real food.
Flavor packs.
Those little flavor seasonings have so much extra crap in them. Things that are grown from the earth, or eat things that are grown from the earth. Real food, whole grains and good for you things, not things that have been bleached out and had things chemically added back in, and figuring out what your body responds to and doesn't respond to. And no one else is going to figure that out for you except for you. Like, you can go to people and get guidance and learn and so forth, but nobody else is going to force you to drink that water except for you.
Right.
I saw this meme, like, it was something about, I thought adult coffee drinks were beverages or alcohol or whatever, but the most adult thing to drink is water. Like,
Yeah.
When you're adulting, you're drinking water. That's
When
been my challenge for a long time.
When you're underage, you think drinking alcohol
is the most
thing.
adult drink. So that's for me, like, you have the ability to look at things, figure out what fuels the body. It's kind of like when you learn when you're gardening, you're not growing plants. You're growing good soil. And as you have good soil, then healthy plants grow. It's the same thing with your body.
Yeah.
You fuel your body. You are fueling it with what it needs. And then you have the energy to do all of these things. Then you have this output that is amazing that you can go and do whatever. But you need to know that you need to have sleep. You need to eat correctly. You need to be hydrated. All things I failed on for many years. I still sometimes fail on the hydration. I'm way more hydrated than I ever was before, though. And figuring out, like, what it is. I guarantee you my body is jacked from years of ibuprofen. On ibuprofen nonstop. Like, the amount of antibiotics that I took was crazy.
That's why you've had issues with gallbladder issues and
there's all kinds of stuff in my body that's jacked up from that. So, and then yours, you've had more physical injuries.
Yeah.
And then you had the no full filter.
Yeah.
And diabetes. And I don't know what you want to touch on in there. Or do you want me to touch?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So, oh my God, I'll touch. So, I'm dirt. For him, he's had the injuries where he has to mentally wrap his head around the injuries and what he can and cannot do, right? Because he has a hernia. Yeah. And it's a reoccurring hernia now, and there's more complications. He had diabetes, and we've learned what didn't work for him, and then we've switched to what does work. Got him off the insulin and really dove into, again, the diet. That's what a lot of things that opened our eyes to a lot of the food and a lot of the health things. And
I wouldn't call it diet. It's just what is good for my body to eat and what isn't good for my body to eat.
Correct. Now, when I say diet, I don't mean like a diet, but the diet we eat. Yeah. Like our habit, our lifestyle.
It's like I'm not starving myself. Mm-mm. It's just what goes into the food. Like using more healthier items to make the body's insulin work better.
Right, so you still have sweetened things, but it's not sweetened with bleached or processed sugar. Right. It is honey or maple syrup, sucanat, or organic cane sugar. Right. And we balance that out, or it's flavored with the actual fruit. Right. It's not artificial. Doing not processed carbs are just going to get your blood sugar right up. Just white bread from the store spikes those sugars, but eating sourdough at home still spike a little bit, but not as bad.
Not as bad. It's a lot healthier.
Learning that balsamic vinegar is freaking amazing for blood sugar. But these were things that we had to learn, that we tackled. It's the mindset of, these are all the things I can't do. No, these are the things I can. And our mindset was, we don't want to be on a bunch of medicine. Right. I'm still on the blood pressure medicine. He's still on one medicine right now that he's weaning off of, that helps regulate the blood sugar. Right. But because we took it as, I can do this. How can I do this? What can I add in? Not what can I take away? What was his relationship with food? He did not have a full button. No. There was no full button. And now we know he has a full button. It's a satisfied button. And it's not about how much he eats. It's about the flavor of what he eats. and the relationship with food that comes from that, which is interesting. I would never have thought that. And so learning that, well, guess what Wifey Poo had to do? I had to learn how to flavor food. And so these are things that, like, learning what makes you tick makes it easier to figure out the health thing. Learning that taking food away from you and saying you cannot messed up your brain and just made you want it more.
Right.
But adding in things that you loved that you could have
made me not want more excessive stuff.
Other stuff you wanted, the good stuff.
Right.
So figuring that out, we still have a long way to go with our health. We have a very long way to go with our health.
And we'll get there eventually. It's just
we are. It's going to be a continual thing. But healing your body. Okay, I think healing spiritually would be number 1. Healing your mind, number 2. And healing your body will be so much easier with those 2 things in line.
Yes.
But if you have a body that's broken and a mind that's going and you're spiritually broken, it's kind of like a wheel. Yeah. And if you have a flat tire on one side, you're kind of going to be thudding through life. Yeah. If you can get them all on balance or as balanced as possible, then, because one thing's always going to kind of be out of whack, I think. Yeah. It's going to make healing so much easier. If you have a spiritual foundation, then mentally it's going to be easier to heal. If you have mental foundation, it's going to be easier to heal physically. It really lines up together. So my biggest thing, before I jump into the biggest thing, my daughter, she just was diagnosed with PCOS. We've known she has gluten intolerance for many years, but we didn't quite understand why, and we're pretty sure it was PCOS. And she has the doctor originally just wanted to put her on birth control or an IUD or something, and she came home, talked to some people, we talked about it, everybody kind of had opinions, and she did some research. And she decided to try not to do the birth control route or the IUD route, and to go into figuring out what she can do naturally. She switched out her diet, added tons of protein, is lowering her carbs. She is limiting her dairy. She has upped her spearmint tea intake. Go figure. There's a few things that she has done, and it's made a huge improvement in her. And she's dropping weight, eating more food than she was eating before. So it's interesting when you have the mindset, her watching the decisions that we have tried to do, making changes and figuring out natural things as much as possible, doing medication when it's needed, but going natural as possible, then it helped her to decide to do that. And I think there's a time for medicine. Both of us are on medicine. Yeah. There's a time for medicine, but I think that it's important that you're the one who makes that decision, because our medical system is very broken right now, and it's very much, let's make the pharmaceutical companies rich and the people who own them.
I think the biggest thing is also not relying on medicine.
Right.
Try and make it to where you're like, oh, I'm going to eat this much because I can take medicine.
Our American healthcare system right now is one that patches symptoms. It doesn't fix the core root problem.
Right.
And so if you can figure out how to fix the core root problem, or what the core root problem is, then that's going to stop the symptoms. Yeah. And so that is something big to really look at. Okay, so the big thing that I really want to say is, no matter where you are, no matter what you're struggling with, no matter what you need to have healed, you have to be honest with yourself. And get out a piece of paper and sit down and write all of the things that you need to heal from. It could be a huge list. It could be 2 things. I don't know. Everybody's different. Everybody's at a different phase in their life. Everybody's going through different struggles. So write it out. It is for you. Write out your list. And then how many things are connected and how many are not, right? And see what area you are going to focus on. Don't try to fix everything at once.
No.
Right? But let's say things are spiritually off, then maybe that's where your focus needs to be. If you have a ton of stuff that's about your mental capacity to be able to attack them, then you need to be working on your mindset and your mental health. Yeah. And then work on all your physical stuff, right? And they're all going to coincide together. But you have to start with being honest with yourself. Yeah. And if you're honest with yourself on what is wrong, then you can come up with a game plan and research it. Take the initiative. And don't expect everybody else around you to be on board. Because you healing is a you thing.
Yeah.
I am very thankful that we have both decided to be healing ourselves. And there are times when one of us is much more gung-ho on it than the other one. And we inspire the other person to like, okay, I need to get my butt in gear here. Like, you're doing better than I am with this. And so it just depends. Some of us are better mentally. Some of us are better physically. It just depends on the situation at the time. And really being honest, really putting in the work. But it's doable. You can heal, whether it is loss, and you're trying to heal from that. Yeah. Whether it is a relationship situation, whether it is a health problem, spiritual problem, whatever. I really, really, really believe that you can do stuff. Now, we would love to pray for you in the process of whatever you are going through. And whether you are the same religion as us or not, we are Christians, and so whether you are the same religion as us or not, I would love to hear some of the struggles. If you have something in particular that you're really working on right now and you want some extra prayer about, put it down there. We'll add you to our prayer list. We want to be a community that's there and a part of it. And we know the struggles, and we know how hard it is, and we know how hard it is to be kind of the only ones around doing some of the changes. Yeah. and thinking the way we're thinking, and living with intention, not just letting life just kind of happen. So drop them in the comments, and we will be back for another episode next Friday. We have a few more left. We're about halfway through, I think, for this video. So we will be back with another one. We appreciate you for joining us, and we just encourage you to heal with intention. Yes. Thank you for following along and watching.
Yeah, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you can, and leave a comment.
Yes.